All right. Hey, Mom Nation, Katie here with Team EvoAZ at eXp Realty located in Arizona. And on the call today, I am so excited because we have Jen Duncan, AKA JD, also with Team EvoAZ, and my beautiful co-founder of Mom Nation, Sherry Ramo. They are both they are both landlords, and I am a landlord too. I have 3 properties. JD is not currently a landlord, but she has some experiences, so that's why we have her on the call today. And Sherry currently has 2 properties, right, Sher?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. So on part 1, we had Ryan Gilliam with Waterstone Mortgage with us, and he went through a lot of great information about financing, about obtaining financing if you are self-employed. That was a great piece. We had a lot of questions on that. I talked a little bit about my little strategy of how I obtain properties at a lower rate and a lower down payment, than a lot of those investment type loans out there. I have a little bit of a strategy where I use a primary residence and live in it for the amount of time that I commit to as a primary residence, and then move on and throw a tenant in there. So some guidelines have changed over the last couple of years that make that a bit easier. And I was surprised to know, JD, weren't you surprised to know that a lot of people weren't aware of that new guideline? And it's huge.
I wasn't either.
It's a massive impact on income and how it really, really helps people become landlords more so than ever before. So that was good stuff. We have a little bit more information today in part 2. And today we're going to be talking about contract tips, listing tips, management, and then we're going to hear about some of the experiences that JD and Sherry went through during their time as a landlord, and continuing, Sherry's continuing to be a landlord now. So I'm sure she has lots of experiences, as do I. So for contract tips, in part 1, we talked a lot about the golden rules. And JD knows the golden rule because she works with me on Team EvoAZ. We help out a lot of buyers buying their dream home or their move up home or their first home, whatever the case may be. And those golden rules apply for pretty much everybody we work with, huh, JD? So check out part 1 if you want to know what the golden rules are, the things to avoid when you're looking at property. We really look with resale in mind when we are consulting and when we are representing our clients. So that is very, very big, huge priority for us. And like I said, part 1 talks all about that. Also wanted to mention that it's really important to consult with your realtor, with your real estate agent when you are looking for an investment property, because there are several things in the contract outside of the price, right, JD, that we can negotiate that will really help you, especially as an investor, keep some money in your pocket, because really cash flow is key, right? We got to keep cash flow in mind, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here later on in part 2. But it's important to consult with your realtor and negotiate on some of those items that you can outside of price. And we're talking about, inspection days. You can negotiate on that. Loan closing costs, getting the seller to pay for those. Obviously, getting the seller to pay for incomplete repairs. Appraisal costs, we've had sellers pay for those in the past. Home warranty, really important to get home warranties. We'll talk about that in a minute. HOA fees. I mean, there's just so many things that we can negotiate in the contract outside of the actual price, which is what everybody thinks when they go to negotiate. I just want to negotiate price, right? So those are really important things. As far as home warranties, I've run into some investors, long-term investors. We're not talking fix and flippers. So people who get properties to put tenants in them. I've talked to several that don't get home warranties. Oh, it's a waste of money. Why would I spend, $600, $500 a year on something that is just, I'm not going to use? Well, let me tell you right now. I've been in this ball game for several years, going on, 14 years now? I will have had my real estate license for 14 years as of April in 2020. And I've seen a lot. And I've owned a lot of properties. I currently own 4 properties right now, and I have gotten garbage disposals replaced. Now, that's not huge, but we're talking the trade call fee, we're talking the labor, we're talking the material. You're probably $200, $300 at that point, right? Well, if I only paid $450, $500 for my year coverage, I only have one more repair to make probably before I make that money back and then some. That particular home got a water heater replaced that year. Oh, all of a sudden my home warranty has just paid itself off and also given me some benefit. I've had air conditioners replaced. I've had drains unplugged. I mean, you name it. I have a built-in refrigerator, kind of one of those Sub-Zeros in one of my rental properties. And those are really hard to work on. Try finding any regular old Joe Schmo repairman to work on that. Not going to happen. It really takes, some experience to work on those, and it takes a little bit of extra cash. So very, very happy that I have home warranties in place for all of my properties. I always have, even my primary, and I continue to keep them going year after year.
That's where we made the biggest mistake when we had our rental. I didn't know about home warranties back then because I wasn't in real estate, but the AC went out twice. And it was each like a $500 repair. And because it's considered an emergency in the summertime, the property managers were able to just take the money right out of the account and fix it. And I didn't find out until a few days later. So if we had the warranties, it would have saved so much money for us and stress too. So like you said, it's super, super important.
It's super important, and even for your peace of mind. I mean, I can't tell you how happy I am that I don't have to call around to plumbers and AC techs and all of that to find somebody to come to like that could take all day.
Yeah.
But now my tenant calls, says there's an issue. Cool. I call the home warranty company. Boom. It's out of my hands. They handle it all. I pay the $70 trade call fee or whatever it is.
In hindsight, I would have probably dropped them off some AC, the filters, once a month. Because what happened was it got clogged up so bad, and then it failed, and then it cost more money to fix later.
That is a super, super good point, JD. And in the lease agreement, I actually write that there's boilerplate information that they must maintain all of the systems appropriately. And I actually write in our lease agreement, and I leave them filters. I write in the lease agreement that they have to change the filter. It is required. If they don't, then they're paying for whatever my home warranty doesn't, basically, as well as the trade call fee. That's super important to get, them committed to that. And I also send text messages once a month to all of our tenants to remind them, oh, hey, rent's coming up, and also change your AC filters.
Smart.
Super important stuff. Another thing that I highly, I'm going off script a little bit here, but another thing that I highly recommend doing is requiring all of your tenants to get renter's insurance. I get up to $100,000 from my renters in renter's insurance. And I make sure that they send me a copy of the policy and I'm listed as additionally insured. That is super important to do just in case anything goes sideways. So I always advise that. It really isn't that expensive for tenants either. Gosh, I think it's less than $100.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
And that can help in some disastrous situations, especially for them. All right, so listing tips to promote your property in the best light that you can. I always suggest professional photos. If you really, we all think we're iPhone photographers, but let's face it, just put your buyer hat on for a second, or put your consumer hat on for a second. You're flipping through property after property after property online. Are you going to stop and look at that property if there are no pictures?
No.
How about if there's only one? How about if there's a tilted picture of the corner of the bathroom and maybe another tilted picture of the corner of the kitchen? Is this really going to turn you on?
No. Especially nowadays, people don't really want to be inconvenienced to go and see something that doesn't look appealing.
100% nowadays, 100%. I know that my clients disregard properties if the pictures are crap. I know they do. You really need to make sure that these photos are professional. Usually photographers that shoot houses have certain lenses and stuff that they use, right, JD? Just to make sure that you're seeing all of it. You really want to see the floor plan. You really want to see, all of as much as you can. So that's important. Also, this day and age, if you don't have video available, get out of town. You need to have video walkthroughs, even if it's just you walking through the home. JD and I have those handy little smooths, which makes it easier. It makes it, it's got that, so it doesn't vibrate and shake all over the place. A stabilizer, there we go. Makes it a lot easier to watch the video and gives your prospective tenants a really good idea of the floor plan, the finishes, and really kind of helps them see themselves live in the home. So I super suggest getting not only professional photos, but video as well. You can list the property on Zillow, Trulia, Craigslist, Facebook, things like that. And you'll probably get some activity. You're going to likely get more activity when you're listed in all those places as well as the MLS. The MLS does syndicate to many other websites and also automatic searches that realtors have these people on. So the rule of thumb when you want to get the most amount of money is you want the most amount of people looking at it, right? So you want the most amount of demand. That's how you're going to get the most amount of money. I love the people who are enthusiastic and want to do this stuff on their own. I really commend you, really do. That's lofty. But just know that you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not getting your property out to every single eyeball that it needs to be out to. I promise you, you're not.
There's so many scams on Zillow and all those websites too. So like if it's not on the MLS, I tell people, I'm like, okay, well, let's dig a little deeper just to make sure it's a legit listing.
That is a super huge point. And that is something that we tell all of our clients and we have for years because these rental scams have been around for years. We've done a couple of videos just like this on it. And actually I'll link those here in the show notes so that you guys can see those videos as well. So you know what we're talking about in terms of the scams. But that is a super, super huge point, JD. That is something that a lot of experienced professionals are telling their clients right now. Make sure you back it up. Make sure it's on the MLS. If it's not on the MLS, really question it. Yeah. Really question where you're sending your money. Pricing. Pricing is super de-duper important. We don't price our properties by going to Zillow, do we, JD?
No.
No. There's a bit of an art and a science to it. And it's really important that you connect with somebody that can give you appropriate pricing help before you throw your property out there for way too much or way too little. Because either one of those can happen. My rule of thumb is if you don't get an application on your property or 40 of them within 10 days in this market, then you're probably listed too high. So just something to keep in mind. As far as management of the properties, I manage my own. I have 3 of them. Sherry, do you manage your own?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. And JD, you had a property manager when you had your property.
I did not. I didn't like him, actually. The communication wasn't there, and in hindsight, there's so many things I would have done differently versus how we handled it. So it's been awesome hearing how you guys handle your rentals.
I hear that feedback a lot, unfortunately. I feel like people think that when they have an investment property and they have tenants in a property, they have to have a property manager. I feel like they think it just goes hand in hand. And to be quite honest, it doesn't. I've been in the business, and what I've realized is that property managers are going to cost you about 8 to 10%. Yeah. So they're digging into your cash flow there, and what are they really doing for you? Most of the time, I've had feedback from tenants as well, not my tenants, but we work with a lot of renters. So I've had feedback from renters as well as landlords about the communication issue. So It's kind of like a middleman in my mind that doesn't necessarily need to be there. Now, if you're running 20 properties plus, okay, then probably some management is in order there. Definitely go through that agreement with them and definitely choose wisely. But for me, I only have 3, and at this point, it is not overwhelming whatsoever. There's some of our tenants that we don't hear from at all. We just see the rent pop up in the bank account every month, which I have my tenants direct deposit, so I don't deal with checks. I don't deal with the mail, none of that stuff. They direct deposit into our account. I just watch the account. If the first comes and goes, I know I got to make a phone call. So it's really not a lot of management. Like I said, we have home warranties. So when we have repairs come up, it's real quick. Okay, let me call the home warranty company. Bada boom, we're good to go.
Sorry. I was going to say, sorry, who's first?
Sherry.
Sherry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, even though I manage my own properties. I think that if I didn't have you and your help with listing the professional photos and all of that, and you listing on the MLS, though, I don't think it's something that I would have, I think I would have been too scared. And so I think it was beneficial for me to go through that entire process with you, because you kind of coached me through it. And then especially all of the legalities. I mean, that's scary. So I think that if you want to manage it on your own, it's totally possible, just even as a layperson. But I think it's important to use Katie and Team Evo for things like that, getting it set up so you are squared away and you know what to expect, to have the homeowner warranty and all of that in place.
Totally agree, and I appreciate that. That is such a huge point. It's going to cost you a lot less, first of all. And secondly, all of the paperwork we give you. So property managers, scary as this sounds, have their own lease agreements and listing contracts. They don't follow ADRE, Arizona Department of Real Estate, that's written by the state's attorneys, okay? They don't follow that. So who knows what's in there? Quite honestly, if you go through a property manager and it's not an ADRE, it's not ADRE paperwork, I would have an attorney review it. Honestly would. Good point, Cher. All right, so let's talk about the application process. So application process is pretty simple. The listing process really is kind of similar to when you're listing a property for sale. You put it, you put the sign in the yard, you get the marketing out, people come and visit the home with their realtors. It's kind of the same. What's different is the paperwork that's submitted, and obviously it's not, a resale home. So what I typically request is an application, and that's going to be an application for everybody over the age of 18 that's living in the house. I want to know who's going to be living there. And then there's information on, the application that asks their employer, where they lived previously, references, things like that. I also want pay stubs or tax returns if they're self-employed. I want to see that they have the income that is needed to cover this. I don't want to be dealing with them 2 months down the road saying that they can't afford the house. I don't want to deal with that. So I always ask for that confirmation. Also, confirmation of funds available for the deposit. I don't want to take somebody's application, say they got the house, take my house off the market, and then all of a sudden they're struggling with the deposit. I mean, that's a red flag right there. So I want to make sure that I've got deposits available. Also, credit report. I think credit is super important. I understand that people go through things. I have received some credit reports that are, a little bit lower than I wish to deal with. And I'll still talk with those people and perhaps get some sort of explanation letter. Maybe it was due to a health problem that is no longer a problem, but they're still digging themselves out of it. Okay, I totally get that stuff. I want to make sure the income's there. I want to make sure the deposits are there, though. Is that basically what you guys do?
Yeah, so you trained me my very first time of renting out that house, my very first house that I bought. And so I do it the exact same way every single time now. I've had 3 coming up on 4 renters in that house. And then our new property that's become a rental is the same process. And so that really works well. I think they appreciate it too, because I give them the opportunity to send me their credit check. So they're not, I'm not requiring them to pay anything.
Right.
But like you said, I have spoken with people, like I've gone through a divorce. So I'm not just going to write off a single mom that has bad credit because she's trying to get out of that. Mm-hmm. But like you said, a letter of explanation and then making sure all the funding's there. And I think that that's worked out well.
Yeah, you got to pre-screen them as best you can. We can't obviously pre-screen for future emergencies that we're unaware of. And it's not completely 100% foolproof, but it's pretty thorough. JD, was that about how your experience went?
Well, the property manager dealt with it. But in hindsight, if I had this guidance back then, we'd be in a better situation now. How ours went down was we lived on the west side, bought the house at the top of the market, so we couldn't sell it, but we ended up finding a house in Chandler that was very well priced, so we were able to rent out the old house and move into the new one, but we were kind of desperate actually. So we really didn't have a whole lot of reserves or anything to make the move, it was just kind of like a pray that it'll happen, right? So the property manager, he found the tenants, but he didn't advocate for me at all. He was just like, okay, here's what they want to pay. You need to accept it. And we were like, okay, well, we need to move now, because at the time it was contingent on getting that house rented out. So if I could go back, and have a little bit more reserves in the bank and do it the right way, I think that it would have went a lot better.
Can I point something out? JD, you just made me think of something. So at one time I did look into property management, and I just wanted to toy with the idea. And they made a good point. Now it's making me think of what you just said, right? He said you need to take what they're offering. Well, you guys got to understand that property management companies don't make money if your house is empty.
Right.
And so if he found a renter, even if it was less than what you listed and wanted, he wanted that money monthly.
Oh, for sure.
So he was on it. And so I think you're right. He absolutely wasn't advocating for you, and that's a shame. But something to think about if you're looking at property management.
For sure. I had to beg him to take pictures. So this was 2010, when we didn't really have the nice iPhones. The pictures were terrible. And me being, I was a graphic designer and all that stuff at that time.
Right.
I was like, come on, dude, just let's go. And it was really frustrating to me, and knowing what I know now, would have totally done it differently and had much more success.
Yeah. And I bet your crap photos, sorry to say it that way, but I bet they impacted the amount that you were able to get.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it totally does. It does on resale too, guys. I'm telling you, crap photos are not the way to go.
You know what?
I'm sorry. I promise I'm not sick. I have one last, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The house that we bought in Chandler actually only had one photo, and it was a terrible, terrible photo. And it was across from Janae, the photographer. And she's like, hey, you got to go check out this house. It's really nice. I'm like, are you for real? Look at this picture. And at that time, it was 45-minute drive. So we were like, okay, we'll go see it. It was gorgeous. If they had taken professional pictures, the bank, because it was a foreclosure, they would have gotten a lot more for the house.
See?
But so we benefited, but still, it didn't benefit them at all.
Right. And imagine all the people that just disregarded that home.
Oh, yeah.
So they missed out on a super good, beautiful deal. Yeah, that sucks. So I have some tricks once, I have somebody in place. And in my lease, I typically include landscaping, pool if I have one. I only have one property that has a pool right now with tenants in it, and pest control. So I include that in my rent. So that way the tenant doesn't have to take care of it. And I know that my property is being maintained properly, because I don't know about you, but I don't want an infestation of scorpions, cockroaches, and the like. I don't want my pool going green and destroying my pool equipment. I don't want my landscaping being overgrown and perhaps causing damage because of that. I want those things to remain as I last saw them, right, when I left the property. And my sneaky thing is that I have really good relationships with all of my service providers. So my pool person, my landscaping person, my pest control person, we're like this. We're like buddies. And when they go visit my home, they give me a little report and let me know how the backyard's looking. And they let me know, my pest control gal, Holly Parker, lets me know, she's so amazing, creepy crawly pest control, lets me know what the interior looks like. Are they keeping it up? Is it totally trashed? Are there holes in the walls? What's going on in there? Does it smell like garbage with garbage everywhere? These are the things I want to know. She looks at the AC filter, getting back to that, tells me if it looks like it's been changed recently. So I highly suggest doing this. Tenants don't mind paying a little bit extra to have these services done, because it really helps them too. They don't have to do it, which is kind of nice. And it's a super win-win. You guys do that? You do that, Cher?
Yes, I learned from the best.
It's helpful, isn't it?
Even AC maintenance, obviously I don't want to get to the point like JD had mentioned where filters weren't changed and now it's a bigger hassle. It's clogged, more expensive. So I'll have annual maintenance checked on that as well. Mine's actually about to come up April 3rd or something. So they'll go out, they'll check both of my units. We have 2 units for both of the houses. So they'll check both. They'll make sure it's full and everything. And then they'll go inside and make sure that all of the filters are changed out as well. Because like you said, I mean, that could cause huge damage later. And even if you have the home warranty, it's still a bigger project, which you don't want to experience. But also with doing that, I was able to get a report about the upstairs, like the drip pans, you know, and just, hey, it might be a better idea to get a bigger, deeper drip pan just to save. So just things like that, that you can find out, you know, and are important if you're not in the home and know that you're maintaining it the way that you want your house to be maintained. So.
Exactly. And I don't think getting an inspection every so often is a bad idea either. I mean, I'm coming up on, when did I buy that house? We're in 2000. I'm coming up on 8 years on one of my rentals. That'd be the longest that I've had a rental. And it's probably about time to get an inspector over there and have them go through the property and just to, you know, see what's going on. It can save you a whole heck of a lot of money.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Also, termite inspections. Halle does my termite inspections, which is peace of mind too. Even if there's not tarantulas and, you know, cockroaches running around, I want to make sure like the foundation, the home structure is also okay, because that's my investment property, you know?
Right. Exactly. Anything else as far as your experiences? Anything else that you think would be helpful tips or information for our audience today, ladies? No? All is well? We're making that cash flow? Oh, speaking of cash flow. So some people love to spend, right? So money's burning a hole in my pocket. Oh my gosh, I'm making $1,000. I'm making $800 over expenses a month on this house. Woo-hoo, let's go to Vegas. Don't go to Vegas. Not a good idea. Don't spend that money. Some of it, yeah, but figure out how much you need to save just in case something happens, just in case some maintenance come up, just in case your home warranty comes up and is expiring and you need to renew that. You're going to pay that from somewhere. Pay that from your cash flow, from those funds. When you send your inspector out, like I'm about to do on my property that I've owned for 8 years, you'll want to use that for, you know, that pool of money for those expenses too. And then talk with your CPA about how that affects your taxes. All right. Is that all we got?
I think so.
That is it.
Awesome, ladies. Well, thank you for spending a little bit of time with me today. And everybody out there, if you have any questions at all about what's going on in the Arizona real estate market, definitely give us a call. Send us a message. We'd be happy to fill you in on what's going on. If you have any questions about becoming a landlord, becoming a homeowner, selling a home, renting a home, whatever it is that has to do with living indoors, we got your back. My number is, take it down because you can text me, 480-250-0023. All right, guys. Have an awesome day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.